This is the continuation of Chapter 8. As also was the case in post-World War I Germany. That's where I left off. Those seeking a revival of neo-paganism and enhanced use of Eastern mysticism for the masses have welcomed this trend, but others might rightly have viewed it with alarm, particularly among European scholars who are residents of countries overrun by Nazi Germany during World War II, and who have first-hand knowledge of the dangers of Nazism. There has been great concern. Two prominent French scholars, writing under the joint signature of Jean-Michel Engbert, stated in their classic, The Occult in the Third Reich, released in the English edition by Macmillan Press in 1974. The Hitlerian myth can be understood only if viewed in the context of the particular philosophical system that produced it, which is itself but one link in a historical tradition going back over centuries. Those who induced Germany to embrace the swastika are not dead. They are still among us, just as they have been in every era, and doubtless will continue to be until the apocalypse. National Socialism was for them but a means, and Hitlerhey was but an instrument. The undertaking failed. What they are now trying to do is revive the myth using other means. Unquote. Sorry, I didn't say quote. Or, to restate what was quoted before by Foster Bailey in regards to the previous hierarchical project to unite the nations using the Rhine River Valley as a binding factor, it was an attempt by a disciple but did not work. The cosmology and cosmogony of Nazism and the New Agers are identical. Both Nazism and the New Age movement are programs for expediting the path to transcendental consciousness, for the transformation of the masses through initiation into the mysteries. Occult teachings and pagan practices were injected into the mainstream of a nation during Hitlerhey's reign. For example, Hitlerhey's crack SS operation under the direction of Heinrich Himmler was forced to undergo group initiations in the pagan mysteries. Shrouded in Aryan Grail esoterics, the initiate's goal was to gain psychic abilities and superhuman strength. Hitlerhey established a bureau of the occult, or Ahnenerm, as both a part of his established German government and also a separate bureau as part of the SS. Leading German scholars and intellectuals were drafted for service to perform research for these organizations, just as a young man could be drafted for the purpose of fighting on the Russian front. The teachings of Alice Bailey, Benjamin Creme, and David Spangler, together with a host of other New Age writers, state that we shall undergo a mass planetary initiation in the New Age. The specifics of that initiation, which is called a luciferic initiation, are discussed in the chapter entitled Satanism and Luciferianism in the New Age. Discussed also in that chapter is Spangler's statement of what will happen to those who refuse to accept the New Age Christ and initiation. Nazi esotericists, including Hitlerhey, believed in an occult doctrine known as the macrocosm-microcosm theory of the universe. This is a standard New Age belief as well. Pause. That's like as above, so below. New Age esotericists believed in the existence of masters who are organized in a hierarchy headed by a New Age messiah. The Nazis likewise believed in the existence of a hierarchy of masters headed by a New Age Christ whom they considered to be their very own Hitlerhey, as Hitlerhey himself believed. This continuity of doctrines is possible because of the preservation of neo-pagan occult teachings and the esoteric teachings of Eastern mysticism through a system of initiates, adepts, and masters. As the translator stated in the preface of Jean-Michel Engbert's The Occult in the Third Reich, quote, "The significance of these findings is that there is thus as much reason to speak of a neo-pagan continuum or tradition in the West as of a Judeo-Christian one. The first like second, has its dogma, ritual, symbols, prophets, and adepts. As in all major religions, it is through the priesthood, as exemplified in the Nazi strain by the esoteric Vril Society, Thule Society, Society of the Seekers of the Grail, and seminaries of Ordensbergen, that it perpetuates itself by means of a concentration of occult powers or occult power located in its initiatory centers, whose knowledge and symbols are as inaccessible to the masses as to the enemy." Unquote. Another interesting point of reference among hundreds of points of reference is that the New Agers commonly believe that by undergoing the various spiritual disciplines such as yoga, meditation, mind control classes, etc., they can become co-creators with the universe. They believe that they have evolved by such practices. There is a chilling similarity between their statements in this regard and the remarks of Hitlerhay. John White said in the introduction to the 1979 International Cooperation Council Directory, now known as the Unity and Diversity Council, what is coming to pass today is not a generation gap or a communications gap. Rather, it is a species gap. A new species is making its way onto the planet and asserting its right to life. This inevitability brings it to conflict with the dominant species, and that dominant species is a dying species. These events and the greatly accelerated interest and exploration in psychotechnologies, spirit disciplines, and sacred traditions are manifestations of a new, more intelligent species coming into existence, with resistance from the dominant species, and developing a unified planetary culture. Pause. I'm just about finished with a video comparing Barbara Marx Hubbard, who's talking all about a new species and stuff like that. So this is continuing, of course. There is a mighty leap forward in survivolution occurring, and the result is a vast sorting out process among people. They are trying to discover what species they belong to. We can become, in a sense, co-creators with the cosmos. That is what meditation and other spiritual disciplines are all about. There is an evolutionary advance taking place in the world today as a new and higher form of humanity takes control of the planet, and therefore surviving, while the older species dies out from a massive overdose of irrationalism. Outwardly, these mutant humans resemble the earlier forms. The difference is inward, and their changed mentality in their consciousness. Homo noeticus is the name I give to the emerging form of humanity. Unquote. Pause again. I'm sorry. In the article I read about the evangelicals linking up with the New Agers and how there was common funding with the family and the Institute of Noetic Science, that's this Noeticus thing. That's the Noetic science that they're talking about. Okay, I'm sorry. If this sounds familiar to Nazi scholars, it is because it should. Hitlerhay himself said almost identically the same thing. Quote, "Creation is not yet completed. Man must pass through many further stages of metamorphosis. Post-Atlantean man is already in a state of degeneration and decline, barely able to survive. All creative forces will be concentrated in a new species. The two types of man, the old and the new, will evolve rapidly in different directions. One will disappear from the face of the earth, the other will flourish. This is the real motive behind the National Socialist movement." Unquote. As quoted in The Spear of Destiny by Trevor Ravenscroft, Bantam Books edition, page 250. Wow. Sorry. Also, and probably most importantly, both movements believe in the use of blinds to throw off non-initiates off their trail. Nazis frequently labeled the most sinister of actions by benign names, as do the New Agers. Extermination of the Jews and Gypsies was not called a killing, it was called a cleansing action. Death camps were disguised to look like health camps. Mass exterminations of whole area populations were labeled resettlements. The use of blinds is a well-accepted tactic to keep those not in sympathy with its aims from learning the specifics of the plan. For that reason, New Agers likewise use blinds New Agers likewise use blinds to keep the general public from learning all that they are about. The blinds consist of deliberately false and contradictory information being included in an occult writing that is likely to come into the hands of the general reader, as have the New Age writings since Alice Bailey's permission to go public was implemented in 1975, the year she had specified. One such use of this technique is illustrated in Volume 5 of the Adar edition of The Secret Doctrine by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. Quote, in view of the abstruse nature of the subject dealt with, the present paper, Paper 2, will begin with an explanation of some points which remained obscure in the preceding one, as well as some statements in which there was an appearance of contradiction. Astrologers, of whom there are many among the esotericists, are likely to be puzzled by some statements distinctly contradicting their teachings, while those who know nothing of the subject may perhaps find themselves opposed at the outset by those who have studied the exoteric, outwardly known, systems of the Kabbalah and astrology. For let it be distinctly known, nothing of that which is printed, broadcast, and available to every student in public libraries or museums is really esoteric or secret hidden, but is either mixed with deliberate blinds or cannot be understood and studied with profit without a complete glossary of occult terms. Unquote. Page 435. Helena Blavatsky. Following suit, Alice A. Bailey also instructed her students in the arcane school as well as those would-be probationers and initiates reading her books that she, like Madame Blavatsky, used blinds. However, they really were not concerned about this because they truly believed that only an initiate would understand what was written anyway, ignoring the fact that it is God who dispenses wisdom. The organization of the New Age movement is also chillingly reminiscent of Hitler's Germany. Apart from its parent councils such as the Unity and Diversity Council and Planetary Initiative for the World We Choose, which professes to be a network of networks, the New Age movement is not organized as an organization per se. Appendix B contains sample materials from the Unity and Diversity Council showing a few of their goals and organizational structure. Instead, it is literally a network of networks with some important pivotal organizations at its core. The beauty of the particular form of organization they have adopted is that whenever an organization or individual becomes embarrassing to them, as did Jim Jones, they can quickly close up their fishnet-type structure to exclude that person or organization as though he or it had never been a part. Following is a chart which gives a more detailed correlation between Hitlerian Nazism and the New Age movement. Okay, we're comparing. Nazism. Nazism was an offshoot of occultic practices and teachings. The Nazis had a bureau of the occult as part of the German government under Hitler. This was known as the SS Occult Bureau. Another such agency was the Nazi Occult Bureau. In the New Age movement, the New Age movement is based on occultic practices and teachings, particularly the writings of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, especially The Secret Doctrine, and Alice A. Bailey, who claimed to be receiving telepathic messages from the Tibetan master Djwhal Khul. All forms of occultism and mind expansion are permitted and encouraged within the New Age movement. Nazism taught the doctrine of Aryanism and Aryan purity, and that the New Age would feature an Aryan mutant master race. The New Age movement teachings stress the doctrine of Aryanism and Aryan purity. See especially Alice A. Bailey's writings and the writings of David Spangler. The New Agers believe that through meditation and other spiritual disciplines that they have become a new species, Homo noeticus, as opposed to Homo sapiens, and that Homo sapiens is a dying species. They teach that the Jews are from a different solar system, Alice Bailey teachings, and that the Orientals and blacks are from a different root race. Occidental races must control the world as they are presently our most evolved root race. Wow. Nazism featured hatred of Jews and an ancient occultic doctrine of a blood taint resting on the Jews, as there was need for a final correct solution to this Jewish problem. The secret doctrine of occultism features hatred of the Jews. The writings of Alice Bailey, which have been followed meticulously by the New Age movement, state that the new Messiah will not be Jewish, as the Jews have forfeited that privilege, and they must pass through the fires of purification in order to learn humility. See The Rays and Initiations by Alice Bailey. This particular passage regarding the new Messiah was written in 1949, when the entire world knew what had happened to Europe's Jewish population. These teachings are also strongly opposed to Zionism and the possession of a homeland by the Jewish people. These teachings also state that what happened to the Jewish people in World War II was a result of their bad national karma. Hitler was an initiate of occultic practices, including yoga, Tibetanism, hypnotism, and the secret doctrine of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky and the Tibetan masters. Benjamin Krem says that Maitreya the Christ is a seventh-degree initiate. Entrance into the New Age requires a luciferic initiation. Nazism featured the quest for the Holy Grail as a path to transcendental or higher consciousness. The New Age movement features the quest for the Holy Grail as a path to transcendental or higher consciousness. The Nazi believed in the law of karma and reincarnation. The New Agers believe in the law of karma and reincarnation. The Nazis particularly Hitler sought to embody luciferic energies. The New Agers, and particularly David Spangler, one of the leading New Age spokespersons, state that the luciferic energies are positive and that they are the energy of anticipation and the energies that get a person from here to there. Hitler used mescaline to speed up consciousness expansion. The use of drugs as a catalyst in consciousness expansion has long been part of the New Age movement. The Nazis thought they had evolved into a new and superior species by means of spiritual disciplines and consciousness evolution. The New Agers think they have evolved into a new and superior species, Homo noeticus, as opposed to Homo sapiens, by means of spiritual disciplines and consciousness evolution. Hitler encouraged the organization of young men into the brown shirts for the purpose of keeping order in the cities and village neighborhoods. The brown shirts were trained in the martial arts such as karate and generally performed guard-type operations. The New Agers, through Curtis Sliwa, have encouraged the organization of young men and women into the guardian angels for the purpose of patrolling cities and neighborhoods. The guardian angels are trained in martial arts such as karate and aikido. Members of the SS Schutzstaffel, or Protection Squad, were inducted by a pagan-style initiation ceremony. Members of the U.S. military New Age-oriented 1st Earth Battalion are initiated in a pagan-style initiation ceremony. The Nazis believed in breeding of children controlled by the state. Many New Agers and most top-level New Agers advocate requiring people to be licensed in order to have children. Friends of the Earth are particularly vocal in this regard. The Nazis operated free maternity homes in the interest of breeding a master race. The New Agers have an operation known as the Farm in Tennessee, which has a free maternity home, and women are told they can leave their babies for a short or as long as a period as they like. As a practical matter, it is almost impossible from a legal standpoint to regain custody of a child left for a long period of time. Hitler encouraged the recruitment and use of convicts. The New Agers encouraged the recruitment and use of convicts. Signs of Christ by Harold Balios specifically mentions it, and there are many New Age projects designed specifically for the recruitment and conditioning of convicts to orient them to New Age goals. Nazism sought the institution of a New World Order in which the Aryan race would predominate and control. The New Age movement seeks the institution of a New World Order in which Aryanism will prevail. Nazism was a synthesis of occultism and Gnosticism based on the secret doctrine and a synthesis of the old mystery teachings and Eastern religions. The New Age movement is a synthesis of occultism and Gnosticism based on the secret doctrine, the Alice Bailey teaching, and a synthesis of Eastern religions and the old mystery teachings. Nazism came to power by Hitler appealing to the rich that his regime would increase their control and be more efficient, and telling the poor that his regime would mean sufficient resources for them to exist on. The New Age movement has obtained the support of the rich and powerful, such as the Chase Manhattan Bank and heads of major corporations, by telling them that the New Age teachings are good for entrepreneurship and business, and many of the poor by telling them that they will redistribute the world's assets and establish a new world economic order. Nazi adepts believed the gods lived in Shambhala. New Age initiates believe the gods are established in Shambhala. Nazism was hostile to Orthodox and fundamentalist Christianity and sought to replace the cross with a swastika. The New Age movement is hostile to Orthodox and fundamentalist Christianity and seeks to replace the cross with the rainbow and the swastika. Hitler referred to his scheme to take over as Mein Kampf, or my plan. I thought it was my struggle. I guess I should look that up. The New Agers call their scheme to take over the plan. And in the transmission from Lord Maitreya through Benjamin Creme, Maitreya calls it my plan. Hitler forced his underlings to go through occult initiation rites. The writings of Creme, Spangler, Alice Bailey, and other important New Agers state, "We will be forced to undergo initiation if we wish to enter the New Age alive." Nazis believe the roots of their Aryanism were first found in Atlantis. The New Agers trace their secret doctrine and occult teachings to Atlantis. Hitler said in Mein Kampf that the problem with Christianity lies with its Jewish antecedents. Creme, Bailey, Alice Bailey, Theodore Roszak, and other important New Age writers say the problem with Christianity is that it has presented a teaching of Christ straight out of the old and outworn Jewish dispensation. The Nazis believed a new superior mutant species of Aryans can be brought into existence by development of higher consciousness. The New Agers believe a new superior mutant species of Aryans can be brought into existence by development of higher consciousness. Heinrich Himmler, like many other Nazis, had an anti-Catholic bias. He even went so far as to advocate the public execution of the Pope and to compel Catholic SS members to leave the Roman Catholic faith. Benjamin Creme, the spokesman for Terra Center and Maitreya the Christ, has publicly stated that the Pope will be forced to bend his knee to Maitreya the Christ. Hatred of Catholicism shines through the Alice Bailey writings, which are followed meticulously by the New Agers. The Nazis, through Heinrich Himmler, developed a secret file that eventually included a dossier on nearly all Germans. The New Agers, through Buckminster Fuller and the World Game Laboratories, advocate computerizing all information whatever and allowing anyone who desires access to this information. For example, all purchases and resources whatsoever would be computerized. Well, that's already happening, isn't it? Hitler moved to disassociate himself from troublesome elements supporting him whenever they proved to be embarrassing. For example, when Rom's brown shirts proved to be an embarrassment, he moved to disassociate himself from them and organized the black shirts, the SS, in their place. Marilyn Ferguson, writing in the Aquarian Conspiracy, said that the movement was not dependent on any individual or organization because of its network composition. For example, the New Agers were proud to claim Jim Jones and his People's Temple as their own until his Guyana murder-suicide fiasco. After that, they never ever mentioned him again, except to point to him as an example of the dangers of religious fundamentalism. Yet the insiders in the movement knew all along that he was one of theirs, and never into Orthodox or fundamental Christianity. Pause. Although he did join the team with William Branham, the healing revival latter rain prophet from the 40s and 50s and 60s, started in the 40s, I think, maybe earlier. And he also is highly acclaimed by all the gnarly prophets. They all say they want the mantle of William Branham, who was associated with Jim Jones. So Jim Jones did pose, he posed. He was a poser. The Nazis instituted a program of quietly killing children with birth defects and mental patients. Hitler instituted this program after receiving a letter from the father of a deformed child requesting that the child be put to death. One way was to starve the child. New Agers have advocated and supported legislation and medical practices of euthanasia and death by starvation and termination of life support systems. One rationale given for this is the will of the parents and the inability to support children with such immense needs. The Nazis referred to their promotion of local anti-Semites murdering Jews as self-cleansing, and the murder of Jews as a cleansing action. The New Agers believe that a cleansing action will be necessary to rid the world of evil, defined as anything that causes separation. Separation is defined as caused by God-fearing religions, Jews, Christians, and Orthodox Muslims. Yes, the sin of separation, and I'm sorry, I should have said pause. I've pointed this out in other videos, but holy means to be separate. That's one of the main definitions, is separateness, or to be separated. A common Nazi tactic was to burn down synagogues, sometimes with people in them. At least one prominent New Ager, Gina Sermonera, has stated that when the people learn what the churches are really all about, they will probably burn them down. And that is the end of Chapter 8. Thank you for listening.
Run.
There's just one name that can keep you out of hell, and it's the name of Jesus. The name of Jesus.